Data analysis is one of the very important part of research methods because whenever we do a research, whenever we do conduct a study, we are collecting a lot of data and information. So how do we interpret what the data is? How do we interpret what that whole finding or information that we have got from so many participants, what it actually means? So data analysis is very, very important. Let's get started and understand how to do it. So let's understand what is measures of central tendency. Measures of central tendency are descriptive statistics. Along with the measures of spread, they help the researchers to summarize large sets of individual data points so that trends and patterns can be identified. So there are three kinds that we'll be doing that in the class. That is the mean, the median and the mode. The mean, median and mode comes under this measures of central tendency. So what exactly is the mean? The mean is how to calculate is, the mean is when we add up all the data point scores and divide by the number of scores. For example, I have 10 participants and each participant has given me 8, 6, 5, 4, 3 and so on out of 10. So I just add up all these numbers and divide it by the number of scores, that is divide by 10. So that comes my mean. Then the next is the median. The median means the middle value when the data points are, scores are put in rank order from smallest to greatest. All of this data must be used even if some of the scores are the same. So even if some have got 6 and the other person has also got 6 out of 10 and some are getting 0, the other person is getting 10. No matter what the score is, every single person's score is calculated in this. If there is an even number of data points, the two middle scores are added together and divided by 2. So this is a median. The third is the mode. The most frequently occurring data or points, score or category of behavior. So what is the mode? That let's say for example in the class of 10 students, there are 4 students who say that they love to play football. 5 students they say they like to play badminton and one person says that he likes to play cricket. So in this, the most frequently occurred was the badminton because it was 5 out of 10 as compared to the other sports. So this becomes the mode. The most frequently occurring data, that is the mode. Next is the measures of spread. Now what is the measures of spread? Measures of spread help researchers to identify how similar the data points are to one another and give an idea on the amount of variation in a data set. Now in an experiment, the means of both the experimental and the control group might be very similar, but this tells us nothing about how diverse the scores are. In one group, some of the scores might be very easy, high compared with mean, and others might be very low. In other group, the scores might be very close to the mean. Now there are various measures of spread and the two of you need to know that about the range and the standard deviation. So the first is the range. So the range tells us that how widely the data is spread between the lowest and the highest data points. The larger the range, the wider this data is spread. It can be used with a median or mean. And how to calculate the range? Find the highest value in the set of scores, find the lowest value in the set of scores, and then subtract the lowest value from the highest value. For example, in a given study, the researcher calculated the range for the amount of time spent in engaging different mindful activities. For example, time spent, body scanned ranging from this minutes, whatever. This is example, don't include. The second is standard deviation. What is standard deviation? It means giving precise information about the spread around the mean. Smaller standard deviations suggest the data points are clustered more tightly around the mean, and larger standard deviations suggest that the data points are more diverse. And how to calculate standard deviation? The mean is subtracted from each data point to see how far each score deviates from the mean. The rest of the calculation allows the researcher to identify the average amount of deviation from the mean. In this class, we are going to learn about what are bar charts, histograms and scattergraphs, and when these kind of when these kind of charts are actually used. So graphs are very helpful when graphs help researchers to communicate their results visually. Whatever the results or scores come in, it is easier to see in the graphs and to understand it much better, allowing people to quickly understand the main patterns and trends from the results. First is bar charts. Bar charts are very helpful for quickly demonstrating the relative difference between the values obtained from two or more groups or conditions in an experiment. Now, often bar charts compare the mean, median or modal values obtained in two or more levels of the independent variable in experimental studies. But they can also be used to illustrate quantitative data from observational and self-report studies. This is one of the examples for bar charts where it is clearly showing that the blue bar is up till 26 and the pink bar is only up till 23. So this is for high empathy, and then for low empathy you can see that the blue is above till 27 and the pink bar is till 30. So this gives us a very clear illustration of the results. Next is histograms. When are histograms used? Histograms are used when the data is continuous. Continuous data is data that can be measured on an infinite scale where values can be infinitely large or infinitely tiny. A good example is time. Units can be as large as century or as tiny as a nanosecond. So the histogram shows the distribution of all the collected data rather than the average. The horizontal axis, x-axis, is divided into appropriate intervals representing the full range of data points or scores, and the vertical y-axis is labeled frequency and shows how many people scored within each interval. So as the data is continuous, the bars on a histogram should be touching, and if there are no scores with a certain range, a gap should be left. The third is scattergraphs. Scattergraphs are used to present correlational data, like a histogram. They show the complete distribution of the data collected from all the participants. The x-axis horizontal will be labeled with one of the covariables, and the y-axis vertical will be labeled with the other covariable. It does not matter which covariable goes on which axis. Next, the pairs of scores obtained from each participant are plotted using a small dot or cross. To subscribe my channel. Thank you.